You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. Jazz Winnipeg invites you to an exclusive online conversation happening tomorrow, June 22nd, with Sheila Jordon. Considered to be a living embodiment of the jazz tradition, the renowned vocalist will be speaking with Jazz Winnipeg's own Zachary Rushing, who joins me now to tell us a little bit more. Hello, Zachary. Welcome to Classic 107.
Hi, Simon. Thank you for having me.
And I guess I should start off by saying congrats on the new gig. Let's talk a little bit about your role as Artistic Programs Director at Jazz Winnipeg.
Yes. So it relatively new. I've just been here since April. And for now, I'm just on a term contract through September. But am a jazz fanatic and advocate, and I'm happy to be here helping in any way I can to promote and grow our jazz community in Winnipeg.
And we're very thankful for that. I should say, though, you're new to the position. You're no stranger to Jazz Winnipeg. I mean, I remember seeing you perform down at the Cube as part of Jazz Fest. I mean, you performed as part of a part together last year and down the road at the Jazz Age Garden parties. With all that being said, you've really established yourself here in the scene, but you're not originally from Winnipeg, are you?
I'm not, no. I relocated to Winnipeg, well, to Canada at large about 4.5 years ago with my partner from Seattle, Washington.
And tell us more about what brought you here in the first place.
Sure. So I was living in Seattle and was having some difficulties getting my undergraduate degree done because of the cost of American schools, period. And so was fairly young and carefree, living my best life in my early 20s, and fell in love with a Canadian man who grew up in Steinbach originally. And our circuitous journey of like trying to figure out me finishing up school and what we were going to do with our lives at large brought us in a very roundabout way to Winnipeg.
Yeah, no kidding. And so thrilled that you're here. And you went to the Days Hotel Faculty of Music. You're a vocalist, and I guess to get round to why you're really here as a vocalist and in this new role as Artistic Programs Director, you've lined up a conversation with a vocalist, and a big name vocalist at that, Sheila Jordon.
Yes. We had been talking about the idea of doing an interview with someone, and Sheila was the first person on my list. So I was really both lucky to get her and excited to have Jazz Winnipeg on board with pursuing that.
So she was first on your list. Tell us a little bit more about Sheila Jordon and why she was at the top for you.
Sure. So Sheila Jordon may not be a household name in the way that someone like Ella Fitzgerald or Sarah Vaughan was, but to anyone who is a jazz aficionado, especially of vocal jazz, will be a name that is incredibly familiar. And she has played the Winnipeg Jazz Festival before, so Winnipeggers might know her from her performances here in either 2004 or in 1995, were the dates I could find she played our festival. But Sheila is, beyond being an incredible vocalist in her own right, she's an incredible improviser and interpreter of melodies and of ballads. She is one of the living links in our jazz tradition that goes really right back about as far as it can go. We're looking sort of at like 100 years of jazz history as we're coming back into the roaring 20s on the other side of that. And Sheila Jordon is 92 years old this year. So she has been around and been in the thick of it for as long as anyone that I can think of, except maybe Sonny Rollins and a few elder statesmen in jazz. And she just was always out there putting herself in scenarios to pursue her love, which was bebop. So she was close, intimate friends with people like Charlie Parker and Thelonious Monk and Charles Mingus. And unfortunately, while none of them are still around here to share with us what it was like to be creating music in that time and to be on the scene in the 40s and 50s in Detroit and in New York City, Sheila is, and she was there and she did it. And to hear her perspective on that is pretty thrilling.
Yeah, I was going to say 60 years in the biz is absolutely remarkable. And like you said, a living embodiment of that jazz tradition, like one of the pioneers of scat, right? Of her and a double bass player up on the stage. And when people think jazz, that is Sheila Jordon. She is the embodiment of that.
Totally.
Can you tell us a little bit more about her impact directly on you? Like she must be a sort of idol. How are you feeling about interviewing her?
Oh, tickled. I'm incredibly happy to be interviewing Sheila. Sheila is sort of like a direct link in my jazz mentor family. So I grew up studying in my early 18 to 24 years old in Seattle with this woman named Beth Winter, who's an incredible singer, who studied in turn with a great singer named Jay Clayton, who in turn is sort of Sheila's protege. And so she's like at the top of my jazz family tree as it trickles down. And I had just never had a chance to meet her or to get to learn more about her life in such an intimate way. But also she's someone who I spent a lot of time with her records. I started really getting into this record of hers called Old Time Feeling, which was the first all bass and voice duo record ever recorded that anyone can know of. And so I spent a lot of time with that and then moved into some of her other repertoire. And so she's been in my life in a circuitous way that she didn't even know about for, I guess, around 10 years or so.
Yeah, and I mean, to be able to, I mean, it's one thing to put a person's record on, but to be able to talk to them about that record and to be able to sit down and really just chat about their life and their experience. I mean,
absolutely,
this is a really cool event that Jazz Winnipeg has lined up. Can you tell us a little bit more about the event itself? Like, I'm curious, will it just be a sort of conversation back and forth, or do you have some of those records lined up, or sharing some recordings or video stuff?
Sure.
As well?
So we will share a little recording and video during the introduction at the beginning for those who are unfamiliar with Sheila's performance. And then we're going to do about a 45 minutes in conversation with sort of interview. I'm not taking the approach as much of asking scholarly questions so much as I have just informed myself as much as possible of Sheila's whole history and her life. And I really would just like to give her a chance to present to us the moments in it that she's found the most interesting and worth retelling in her state as an elder in our jazz community. Yeah, I've sort of lost track of the question.
Well, no, I mean, no, you totally answered it in terms of, you know, there's a video happening at the beginning. We'll hear a few things,
yes.
But ultimately,
yes. And
it's
then
more about hearing from Sheila herself.
Correct. And then at the end, we will open up for a Q&A. So if anyone has any audience questions, as I'm sure there will be at an event like this, I'll be incredibly happy to take those.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not every day you get to talk to an icon like Sheila Jordon. So the event itself streams 7 to 8 tomorrow. Will it be available to stream after that as well, or is it a one and done situation? You got to be there.
You've got to be there if you want to hear, if you want to engage in the Q&A, or if you want to hear anything in real time. We are looking at releasing it on a sort of like later timeline so that there's an exclusivity for people who are participating in the moment. And then maybe 2 to 4 weeks out, we will release it because it is just something that everyone should be able to see in terms of its content and quality, right? Just,
Absolutely. And so, Zachary, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about this. I mean, Sheila Jordon, a life in jazz. It sounds like it's a really cool event lined up, and again, something to check out because this is a link to the past and the present, a living legend connecting with us digitally, and what a conversation it will be. Have fun. I feel like that's the thing to say. Like, have fun.
I'm going to have a ton
of fun. Amazing. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
For sure. My primary concern with this whole event was trying to manage getting like a good guideline through Sheila's life in questions with all of the obscure questions that I would just love to ask her myself.
Can you give us an example?
We can find some balance. Oh, sure. So, for example, Sheila made this really great record with a singer named Mark Murphy, who also was a legendary jazz singer, but unfortunately is no longer with us. And I would love to just ask her about what it was like working with Mark Murphy and making that record. They did quite a bit of work together. Mark Murphy being especially of interest to me as one of like the only out openly gay musicians from his time, and just things like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to be able to pick her brain a little bit on these really sort of like jazz singer specific detail kind of things. But not in lieu of getting at the bigger picture of her whole life for the sake of everybody who's there listening to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, just such a person who brought people together, right? I mean, a white woman working in jazz at a time when segregation was very much still happening. And so for her to defend her colleagues and everybody else, she worked with everybody, she brought everybody together. And I think that just such an important message now. And I mean, always is, but what an event this is, and what a way to introduce yourself more broadly in this new role to the Jazz Winnipeg group. So thanks again, Zachary, for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.